So anyway, with that, I'm happy to answer any questions. I appreciate your patience. It's hot, it's late, but I'd be happy to take questions if you have them. That's fine for me.
Questions, anybody? I heard a while ago that adaptive management meant they were going to look at it again in 10 or 15 years.
In the document, it says that at a minimum of 15 years, they need to relook at the plan. But actually, we've been doing ongoing adaptive management. There's something called the Adaptive Management Committee. Unfortunately, they're still dominated by the environmental group, so they're spending all their money looking at the wetlands. But as a result of this year, we're pushing them to look at things like I talked about, the plan operation, and more importantly, documenting the damages so that we can have a realistic estimate of what the actual cost of this is. And I encourage you to report your damages to Cornell or whoever else is collecting them, because that's what they're going to listen to, and that's what the governor may say, oh man, this is wrecking the economy up there, and take some action.
First on your really geeky plot with the little bubbles.
Yep.
You showed that the IJC plan 2014 predicted $1.5 million in damages.
Annual average,
Yeah.
over 100 years.
We just heard from the mayor of this town that had basically that much damage. This is one town.
This is what we said.
How far off were they in the bubbles then?
Very far off.
How far off?
Well, you know, I don't know because I don't know what the damages were. We had an estimate during the event from the Adaptive Management Committee that they estimated $130 million in damages this year. That doesn't include what it costs you to rent the pump to get your basement. No, this is just first floor flooding and damages to the shoreline. None of the businesses are included. And none of the embayments. By the way, the embayments were left off. They said, well, there's no erosion in Sodus Bay, so we don't need to account for it. So I don't know how far off. Nobody does. That's the problem. We told them it was a lowball. And their answer during the study, this is what Henry alluded to, the misleading. Oh, we're not going to use those numbers for anything except compare different plants to each other so we know relatively how they perform. And then at the end of the study, they're talking about, well, you had $25 million a year in annual benefits, we're only going to take away 2, ignoring the fact that the largest benefit of that St. Lawrence project was to the environment. Millions of tons, literally, of air pollution was avoided by the hydropower that was generated. Millions of tons of pollution was avoided because ships could carry stuff instead of trucks. That's part of the environmental benefits that they completely ignore. All they did was say, oh, the wetlands have been wrecked. And by the way, I don't even think that's true, but that's another hour and a half if you want to hear it.
I must say that this is a rumor, first off. And the rumor was that we heard that the IJC, or the board, plans on bringing the lake level up to a higher level again by the month of December. Can you confirm or deny that?
Well, you saw the forecast. That's our forecast. See if I can go back. I deny it completely. We don't intend to bring the lake up or down. What Plan 2014 is, based on the supplies, you set an outflow, and the lake goes up and down. What they want is naturally until you hit the triggers, and then you take action. That was the intent. So we don't, and by the way, we don't have the power to do that. The natural cycle on the lake is it goes up in June and down in December, and the only power we have is to really fiddle a little bit with it. We can't willy-nilly, next month, okay, we're going to take it from here up to there. Impossible. For us to do it, impossible even for nature to do it. So that rumor, I deny it completely.
Secondly, I understand that the commissioners on the IJC in the United States, 2 of them have resigned recently. One, okay. And I understand that one was from the state of Michigan, and the other was from the state of Wyoming?
No.
Is that correct?
So one was from Montana, and one was from Pennsylvania, and the other was from Syracuse. Prior to that, there was someone from Michigan on the prior, and one from New Hampshire. Again, these are political plums that go to people that work on campaigns.
And none of them live on the lake.
Sometimes, sometimes not. But by the way, there was a lost opportunity because for a long time we had 3 commissioners and the Canadians only had 2. So if they wanted to make a change, they may have been able to force it through. But that opportunity is gone. Now we only have 2 and the Canadians have 3, at least temporarily. Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. As a scientist, I truly appreciate what you've elucidated. So, I'm also a businessman, and I still feel, maybe I'm speaking for many people in this room, I still feel somewhat helpless besides my voting power for the politicians at stake here. What else could we possibly do, those people in this room, what could we really do to feel like we're actually taking some action? I like the idea of, I think it's Henry's, of pursuing a legal tack where there actually was wrongdoing here. So I'd like to know what I can do to actually feel like I'm doing something.
I wish I had a good answer for you. So, what United Shoreline is doing is very important. This is a diverse geographically, its interest group, it's diverse in terms of its political representation. And you really have to stay organized and together. And the problem, as Henry pointed out, as the lake level goes down, people will have other things to do. I would keep the pressure up, I would particularly keep the pressure up on New York State and remind them that they approved this plan and they need to object to the federal government. And in addition, keep the pressure on our congressional representatives to get changes to the IJC to make it more responsive to people rather than muskrats. But otherwise, I don't have a good answer for you. The legal question is very tough. It's an international organization. You can't fund a lawsuit at The Hague, you know, to sue them under the treaty. It's almost impossible. And it takes 15 years. Yes, sir. Ma'am.
Hi, Frank. Just to add to that, I think that we need to get our governor, the Department of State, DEC, Coastal Erosion, Army Corps of Engineers, and our representatives in Congress to take a stand against this plan. And we need to put some pressure on them. And I would just like to make one comment. Governor Cuomo stated many times when he came here that the IJC blew it. Well, I happen to disagree with the governor. The IJC did exactly, what happened this year with the flooding is exactly what the IJC said would happen if we had enough water. And any year from now on, when there's enough water, we will have flooding because we won't reach the trigger levels until after the flooding has occurred. So we have to get this across to our representatives and take a stand. And when the Nature Conservancy had a campaign and spent $250,000 to promote this plan, how do you fight $250,000 when you're a little municipality on the lakeshore? It's very, very difficult. And they just keep pushing and pushing and pushing. If you look at the budget that the Nature Conservancy has and the amount of money and contributions that they receive from people, even in New York State, it is unbelievable. They have all the money that they can lobby, they can pay for people to go to Washington. We went to Washington, we fought this, it's been horrendous. And I'm not sure what else you can do. And we talked about all this flooding here. Well, wait till we have a really low year, people, because your water's going to be nothing but a cesspool. It'll be blue-green algae outbreaks. There'll be no boating tourism. There'll be no fishing. It'll be just as bad, if not worse, than the high water. And we have to keep going against this.
And you know firsthand, because you were part of the battle, you went around with me and others and told them this would happen, don't approve this plan. And I appreciate that, but literally for 3 years we were banging our heads against the wall. And it really felt like we were, pardon the expression, pissing into the wind up when there's a storm on the lake. And I thought it had gone away, as Henry did. We thought we heard nothing, we thought it had gone away, and then boom, in December they just announced it and implemented it. Thanks. Yes, ma'am.
I got a question that's, no, I don't think I can hear.
Okay.
I'm a little lower.
I know where you are.
No, I just mean, we would come home, stand down, and we had.
They didn't tell me about it, or I would have been there. They don't want me.
Talk to his friends.
They don't want me
And
there.
I was
Yeah, the bladders.
Okay.
Yeah, they had one up at Arnie's also.
What, I mean, if we suspect that this would happen next year,
Mhm.
what are our chances of like getting together and working this along our side of the lake to take off the rest of it?
If you can organize and do that, that's one way of doing shore protection. The other way is put in permanent stuff, which may be cheaper, I don't know. But all you have to do is make sure you're working above the mean high water line, and you don't need to go to the DEC or the Corps. Mean high water line is 247.3, the old upper bound of the lake. So as long as you're working above that, you can protect yourself. And I encourage people to protect themselves, because this is not going to change overnight. I saw people with sheets with the riprap design. If you want to see what that looks like, go up to Poldyville to Foreman Park. I designed that riprap, that break wall. The county put it in. They did it just right, and that held up perfectly this year.
How is it done?
It's stone, riprap stone, large stone. That a ton of. First, you put down. You have to prepare the foundation properly. You have to prepare the toe with the base properly. You have to dig it out. Put in very large stones down there, and basically build your way back up with a layer of stone, a layer of bigger stone, and then the armor stone, the big ones on top, go all the way up the bank. Very expensive, but it lasts 30 years, 40 years, 50 years. And again, if you go up to Poldyville, take a look at Foreman Park, you'll see that held up beautifully this year. And the county did that, Wayne County. I designed it, they built it, and it worked great. And some homes are doing it. Some homes one, you can't afford it, but two, don't have the room. Because the slope is critical. The slope has to be one vertical for every 3 horizontal. So you got to be able to go out. And that's been the problem. The DEC and the Corps won't allow you to go out. So instead they want you to go backwards. Well, people don't have the room. The bladders will work temporarily.
Put the ladders up under,
Yep.
from, turn the river, and coming into it, and I don't know. But I personally, I need to be, and,
Well, that's what the bladder is not going to help you, because you're going to have to climb over it. More importantly, it's going to erode in front of it. So you're going to have the bladder, and then so that's a real temporary. That's like a sandbag. That's a real temporary. Yeah. The best thing to do, which the DEC will not allow, is build offshore breakwater, like they did in Canada. You build an offshore breakwater, protects the shoreline from the waves, and you have a nice area behind the breakwater for boating and so forth. Make sure the rocks stick up a little so the boats see it, but it cuts the waves. And go up to Canada, a number of locations they did that, it works perfectly. Very expensive. More than that, they just won't even, they won't even entertain it, the DEC. Yes, sir.
How does this commission, how do those people get appointed?
They either donate to the presidential campaigns, or they work the campaigns usually as a campaign manager for the state. These are high-level people. The guy from Montana was the former governor of Montana. These are high-level people. They don't care about the details. They care about the Nature Conservancy came, you got to do this, from Washington and New York. Remember, Washington and New York City. Washington and New York City push this, and you know how it works in New York. We're the backwater. Do whatever you want to those people up there, as long as people in New York are happy, and Albany. That's what happened with this thing. So, if you want to be an IJC commissioner, donate several $100,000 to the presidential campaign, and try and become the campaign manager for a key state that they win. They have to win the state also. Those are paid positions. The board is not paid. We're all volunteers. Although many of the people on the board, as part of their professional duties, they work for government, that kind of thing. Right now on the U.S. side, there are 3 of us that are truly volunteers, that have no affiliate, no salary, it's not affiliated with our job.
are you going to try to
Get to?
slaughter?
Slaughter, Katko, and Collins. And then the 2 U.S. senators, Schumer and, yeah, Gillibrand. And by the way, I think it was Hillary Clinton. She was our senator, became Secretary of State, and brought in this woman. I think she was instrumental in bringing this woman in from Syracuse. I'm not positive. This is a rumor. So I hate to say it, but I think that's what it was when Clinton became Secretary of State. But I would, U.S. senators generally in the past have tried to stay out of this because they felt there was a battle between the Thousand Islands and the lake. But now the Thousand Islands have heard. We got a report from their tourism industry organization, like the Chamber of Commerce. They were hit very hard this year because of the high water. So it could be that we'll get together and then we can put pressure on Schumer and Gillibrand and they'll agree to it. Do something. Yes, ma'am.
There appears to be a disconnect now, and you're saying, well, I didn't see you screwed up, but it was his own PPC who did it. So
Yep. That's called political hypocrisy.
what's happening?
What's happening now?
Is he just saying, oh, PPC?
Yeah, well, he's still blaming us.
Goodbye, PPC.
I don't know if he's saying goodbye, and maybe internally he's saying, what did you guys do? But I am not hearing that. What I'm hearing is, IJC, you screwed up, board, you screwed up, you should replace all those guys, and blah, blah, blah. I haven't heard anything where the state took any responsibility at all for this 2014. And I learned this week, I thought they had a formal approval, but it could be they just had to acquiesce, just say, oh, you know, like Pontius Pilate, I just wash my hands, you go do what you want. Either way, New York State was key to this. Quebec stood up for their citizens. New York.
What's Ontario do that?
Ontario really has a lot less at stake because the North Shore is a lot less vulnerable, and the flooding occurs in Quebec downstream. In fact, many times on the board, Quebec gets the flood, the dam is in Ontario, and many times in the past, especially when we're talking deviations, they would argue more between each other than between us and them. So Ontario is pretty neutral, but the Ontario Department of the Environment was very strong in pushing with the New York State Deep State. The environmental authorities in Canada were also hell-bent on getting this plan in place. And they're supporting the monitoring.
Is the protection in Canada natural or man-made?
No, it's part of this plan that they have no less protection than they had under the old plan.
You said it's like vulnerable.
Oh, you mean on the north shore of the lake? That's natural. That's natural. It has to do with the nature of their shoreline and the nature of the storms, which come out of north, northeast, northwest. Pile of water on our shoreline and the waves. They don't get as much. In addition, Canada and the province of Ontario was very proactive at going out and buying up properties that were particularly vulnerable. So, for instance, the sand spit up in Sodus Bay, the state would have, Ontario would have gone in and bought that up as it became available. So they've been a little more proactive in both shore protection, building these break walls, in removing properties that are very vulnerable, and also naturally they're less vulnerable than we are. That's why the damages, when you look at how the damages for land was distributed, it was all Wayne, Monroe, Orleans, Niagara County. That was almost all the shoreline damages.
I went to that meeting at West Point High School, I mean, people had their rail.
Yep. And I couldn't make it and I apologized. I had a new grandbaby born that day. Dan Bartlett? Oh, Tony McKenna, yeah.
Well, he said that 3 or 4 of the people who signed this 2014 bill were out of office. They weren't, their reign had been ended.
Well, no, they're presidential appointees, but they continue until they're replaced. So the people that signed it in December are still on board, because it usually takes about a year after the presidential election for them to work down to that level and make the appointments. So when Bush came in, because I was there when Clinton was president, and when Bush came in, it was about 18 months before they got around to replacing the commissioners. And then when Obama came in, it was about a year. So we're still waiting to see when Trump gets around to, remember, he hasn't appointed ambassadors, he hasn't appointed a whole bunch of people. They worked their way down the ladder, giving out the favors.
Too much to send stuff to Trump?
Through Collins, I think it would, and through Catco, and through Louise Slaughter. Do you
I don't
agree?
think Slaughter.
I thought Louise was against it.
Louise was
Or
kind of,
for it, rather, I'm sorry.
she was hedging her bets. Remember, a lot of her support comes from the environmental groups. So she was not going to come out very strongly against it. And she made some gestures toward, you should account more for the shoreline interests. But she didn't really actively oppose it.
She's been invited several times.
She wants to stay away from this issue. It's a bad issue for her because a lot of her constituency supported this.
She has one more year.
Only if we get it right.
I have a hard time speaking against Louise Slaughter because she was the one that got me on the board when there was no representation from the South Shore back in '95. She told the White House, you either kick some, there were only 8 members then. She said, you kick somebody off and put Frank on there, or have them appoint one more from Canada and one more from the US, and that's what they ended up doing. And she went to Clinton, and they got that done. So, she was working hard for you folks at that point. This thing, I think, really put her in a bad position.
2 years ago.
Yes, sir.
Thanks for the talk. There was a lot of really good information there. I would just like to get your opinion on a couple of things, some of the things that have been on my mind. I'm coming at this as an environmental scientist, but I feel as though the DEC and the environmental scientists backing this plan have been entirely unreasonable. For example, I've had some of them say things like, well, people shouldn't live on the lakeshore anyways. Well, maybe they should bulldoze their house and let the forest regrow, if that's how they feel. So those points are entirely ridiculous. The other things, when you start to look into the literature, this lake level plan won't get these desired wetland benefits. It won't bring back the sedge meadows unless you combine active restoration projects. And I don't see any future plan to continue to provide money to plant these things, to have people maintain them. I've seen some of the restoration projects they've done in places like Braddock's Bay, and they have to go and mow those meadows because the weeds are still continually growing up. I mean, we have a really bad invasives problem here, and this probably will not get the benefits I don't believe that they want to see. And they don't really talk about that. Just somehow these lake level changes are supposed to bring back the sedge meadows. In our yard, in the place that we are leasing right now for our business, we're planning on getting it set up this summer. We weren't able to because there was 2 feet of water in the backyard. That's all invasive cattails that are growing in the yard. It's not sedge meadow grasses.
You know, on that point, let me just comment. Remember I said I didn't want to get into all the details on the environmental arguments. But one of the things that people are not talking about is the upper lakes, Michigan urine dropped about 2 feet over 2 years. And so they said, oh, this is a perfect place to see these variations of water level and the effect it'll have on wetlands. Well, the Phragmites came in, invasive species, just took over. So, again, there's a large cost, which we know, which we're experiencing. The benefit was an experiment, and I don't think it's going to work, and I think you just said the same thing.
And I feel as though, you know, the DEC just in general hasn't been very open to those sorts of projects. We were trying to write a proposal in New York State Sea Grant to build a flood protection berm along Low Line Road that was going to be planted with native grasses, the ones they wanted to bring back. And they wouldn't let us do it. They threatened us with years of paperwork because it was being built on their land, and it was all invasive cattails.
Yeah.
So if they really wanted this, why would they do that? And
See, you're young. You haven't been doing it long enough. You have hair. You see what happened to me in dealing with this stuff?
Well, I'm getting jaded very quickly.
Okay. You got one more question, yeah?
The other thing is that when they calculate the environmental benefits, I don't think like everything was thoroughly assessed. For example, what about erosion, the delivery of nutrients, and what if septic systems fail? And none of that was taken into account.
We brought it all up during the study. That's why Henry said that if he felt we were co-opted, because we bring this stuff up and said, oh yeah, we'll include it, and then the fourth year of study, they issue reports. Nothing.
That was a big issue on Fort Bay and on Sodus Bay.
Yep.
I mean, and that property that was breached was DEC land. And yet we had, you know, and I'm up in cattails, I'm in the cattails area, and, you know, even a good majority of our cattails have not come back.
Yep.
Because, you know, our docks are still, part of them are still underwater.
These are the things that the politicians have to hear so that they can put pressure on the IJC and that New York State has to hear so that they can, instead of toting the party line that they've been toting for the last 5 years, will get real and make sure they stick up for their citizens because the benefits really aren't there, at least that I've seen. Did you have something else or not?
No,
Thank
that's
you.
okay.
Thank you very much.
Oh, yeah, so Edge Air Drive was closed for several months, greasing up. Brown Pond was coming up. There was several people that just were affecting.
Squeezed, yeah.
And so the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers came through and made this 1,000-foot long, incredible, 5 layers of sandbags and then blocked them up with these humongous concrete blocks, basically taking away half of the yards of all the people that are living outside. So now people along the Air Drive would like to know when are they going to come and take all that stuff away? Are they going to take it away? If you look at your plan, there's nothing in the high limit, the 5% high limit there. We would be starting out
Very high.
exactly where we started, even above where we started.
Oh, it would be well above where we started.
So why would they come and take all that stuff away? Then have them take it next year.
Yeah. Those are questions not for me, but for them. I have no idea. They didn't consult me when they put it in. They're not going to consult me when they take it out.
Consult anybody.
Anybody.
Because they just said that they're going to domain or whatever, that they can just take your property.
Again, Henry might be able to, would know more about this because he's a lawyer. I know, just a simple academic engineer. Yeah. These are the damages that weren't accounted for, that nobody thought about, that are part of this.
Just to add to this gentleman's question about the wetlands, meetings that we were at, IJC stated that there is no expectation of measurable organic comeback of the wetlands.
I've heard that as well, and I feel like that's not,
Their models do not show any improvement in the wetlands,
yeah,
even though they use these models to say there's going to be.
definitely a contradiction there, that's for
Yeah.
sure.
I don't know if we've exhausted everybody, not yet. Yes, ma'am.
I understand that you can't predict the weather, but we have a good 7 to 8 months before we're back in this spring time frame that we all sit here very concerned about next year. With the politics and all the insider view that you've had with this organization, the IJC, what confidence level do you have that we can do something in the next, to make many changes, small changes, start the changes in the next 7 to 8, or having something accomplished in 6 to 7 months?
In 6 to 7 months, again, a probabilistic forecast, I would give it about a 0%. Maybe 2 years, we have a 5% chance of getting some changes. 5 years, I'd say we maybe, if the pressure's still on, we may have a 50% chance. But again, this is qualitative. Nothing's going to happen in the next 6 months except excuses made. That's all that's going to happen. You're going to see a report coming out, an after-action report, the government people call it. And it's going to basically go through kind of what I did, but say what a good job we did. And how Plan 2014 was wonderful. So nothing's going to happen in 6 to 8 months. Sorry. Like I said, some of the things I tell you, you're not going to want to hear.
In light of the damages that have been caused, do you think there'll be a little more proactive opportunity to
Yes. Well, you see the result. United Shoreline is here.
Not from the United Shore, from the IJC.
No, I don't see anything. If New York State decides that this is an issue and starts lobbying the IJC and pushing hard, maybe something will happen, but not for, again, I think for 2 years.
And just out of curiosity, which one of the individuals, Pennsylvania, Syracuse, or Montana, resigned?
Oh, Syracuse. She got a better job. She's running the garbage agency in Syracuse. The Onondaga County Refuse and Recycling, whatever that's called. She got another political job and left the IJC. Pennsylvania is still the chair. She's full-time. Montana is still a commissioner. He's part-time. So that's how the commission works. By the way, there's only 6 of them. 3 U.S., 3 Canada. 1 full-time, the chair, the other 2 are part-time. So these people don't get into the weeds on this stuff. They listen to the lobby. Somebody had to, I guess.
My question is related to the one we just heard. Thank you very much for bringing that up. If you wanted to target capital, this group wanted to take some action
Yep.
in the next 12 months, what would we do with capital?
Call his office, write his office, demand a meeting, go to Washington, meet with his staff, tell him he has to get some action on this thing. And he and Collins should be able to work together. Collins, I know, has been at the forefront, at least verbally. I haven't seen a whole lot of action yet, but things may be going on behind the scenes I don't know about. But the congressional people do respond to public pressure, so I would keep it up if you have to. Now, the other thing to do, there's going to be a New York State Senate hearing in Mexico. I think it's October 10th. They're calling it a public hearing, but there's going to be actual formal testimony. That'd be another place to go and raise some heck. I already know people from Oswego County are going to raise some heck. That may help. If you can get New York State, the Assembly and the Senate, to push hard and get Cuomo to do something, maybe something will happen. Because again, Quebec put their foot down and they got their way. It's a little late now, the horse is out of the barn. Yes, ma'am.
I don't know if this question will be directed to you or not, but what is the plan for your United Shoreline for the future? What are the next steps? How can we get involved with you?
There's the guy right next to you.
We're supposed to be in Mexico for that meeting also. But the plans are to continue, irregardless of the plan, if it's rescinded or the water goes down, because it's going to be coming back up. So we plan on not going anywhere. We decided that we're just going to stick around here and monitor our own water level for the rest of our lives as long as we continue to be on the lake shore. So we can give you information to contact us. You can stay on board with us all through the winter. Our biggest fear is complacency because the water is going down. Many of the people that live on the lake are part-time residents. They're going to be gone in a month or a week or 2. We're going to lack the numbers, but we need to support, we need to stay together.
You're working behind the scenes also, making those connections across the border?
Working behind the scenes to make those connections across the border. We have committees that we have going on in the background. I was going to mention this later, but you all have received a volunteer sheet. I would ask that you step out of your comfort zone and join us, and if nothing else, just stay connected through emails, Facebook, and our newsletter. Pass the word on to your neighbors. It's really, really important that we stay together as a group. You don't need to come out for the meetings. We have a president's meeting every other Thursday. We meet in Greece. But if you're willing to represent your beach or your street, you can stay in the loop through the computer, and we'll keep you updated. We have a lot of things going on behind the scenes that I feel comfortable talking about right now, but we are busy. And the biggest thing that we've done is since June, we have gone every other week from town to town, from Niagara all the way here to Sodus. It's been a grueling schedule for us, but we knew that if we did not come to you, you would not come to us. So we wanted to see you. We wanted to meet you. We needed to hear your stories. We needed to put you into our family group because we are neighbors. And I can tell you the stories are the same in Wilson, in Porter, in Kendall, in Lindenville, in Hamlin, in Hilton, and all the way through the entire shore. Our stories are all the same, and we need to stay united. A permanent alliance. We are a not-for-profit pending now. And regardless of what happens to those of us that are on the board right now, this United Shoreline will continue because this needs to stop. This is crazy.
your contact information?
It's on one of the sheets that you got, and if you're willing to help out in any way, shape, or form, we'd be glad to hear from you. While I have the microphone, I'd like to recognize, please, Huron Supervisor Lori Crane that's here. It's been so gracious to come. Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much. Well, I'd also like to say that I've been trying to reach Governor Cuomo. I have sent him many postcards. I have sent him emails, and then I just decided to call his office every single day. Every day I call his office. He was invited here. I called there yesterday. It was still pending, and I said, well, what does pending mean? Does it mean it's going to show up like tomorrow, or did you just leave it pending and then just figure out that he's not coming? They weren't able to tell me, but he has been invited, and it's pretty disgusting, actually, that he's not here, and he's only here when there's a camera. So keep that in your pockets.
Puerto Rico.
Are there any politicians here tonight?
Yes, we had Mayor Turtnick here. We have Supervisor Crane here. Oh, I do it.
Deputy Mayor of the Village of Fairhaven, you got the same problem.
Thank you. I'm sorry you weren't recognized. That wasn't introduced to you. I'm sorry. Thank you for joining us.
Yes.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you to all of you.
And we didn't mean to put you out. We'd like to thank you very much. But while I'm up here, let me just keep going, and we can say thank you to you again.
She's on a roll, kids.
So from our friends and our family and our neighbors in Newfane, their middle school set about to do a project, and they wrote a book, Lake Ontario's Problem. It's a fantastic book. These kids wrote it. They did the research. They did the pictures. It's $20. They need to sell 50 of these books, and I'm going to put on our website how you can get a hold of Mrs. Ferry, the teacher, so you can pick one up, donate it to your school. I bought 6 of them. I sent one to the president. That one was going to be for Cuomo if he showed up today. I was going to give it to him. But I donated it to our local library and our middle school library, and I've been sending them to everyone. I'll have to buy a few more because she just ordered 50 more of them. So I'll put that information up there so you can get that book from Mrs. Ferry. That's a great project. That's how they pay for their summer school program.
I would just, this is my first time. I came from Webster. I really haven't been too involved until my neighbor informed me of this. I think there's a lot of people out there that are not aware of this. I'd like to ask if you could consider coming to Webster, New York, 25 miles of shoreline. And
Okay.
I think it needs to be addressed.
If you get on your packet and you get our email and you email me and you help us find a venue, we'll go to Webster. That was the original plan. We had trouble finding a venue. Like I said, we've been doing this every other week. We have volunteers here tonight with us that have traveled 3 hours to get here. And these people have gone back and forth with us for every single one of these meetings. That's because it's not us, it's all of us. We are all a United Shoreline. We'll go to Webster. We just need a little bit of a break, but be glad to go to Webster. I'd like to go back to Irondequoit because we had such a poor turnout. And we need to spread the word. We put out the press releases to, well, the Democrat and Chronicle will never cover our story. They've never come to a rally. Channel 8's been great. Channel 10's been great. Spectrum's been great. All the local little papers have been great to carry our story. The Batavian News carries our articles about us all the time. Batavia, okay, Buffalo stuff. So it's been hard for us to get the word out about us. You can do that by spreading the word to your neighbors and your friends and your family, and get onto the website and stay on the Facebook page, download your pictures, send me your stuff, tell me your stories, because that's what is going to keep us connected, all right? Because we're in this together, and we're not going away.
You can count on that.
Can you put the information on the next meeting on the website or on the Facebook page?
I don't have that information. I don't have that information right now. I just received it actually the other day from Dr. Dan Barletta. So we were just discussing how we're going to make another trip. So, but I'll make a note to try to do that. And yes, but great, thank you. thank you, Dr. Sciremammano, for coming.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you, Henry Stewart. Thank you for all our great speakers. Everybody that's here tonight, thank you so much. We'd like to thank all the volunteers and everybody that has been following us around for the last 6, 7, 8, 10, 12 weeks religiously. We're so grateful. We're grateful for you, so just stay in touch with us, please. Thank you. Have a great weekend.